Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. I am your host. We are broadcasting high above the Civic Center station, and tonight I'm going gate to gate with questions that need answers. We'll start with a simple one. I can see your names, but others can't. So say where you're calling from and how do you think Spider-Man will be remembered going forward? Is it going to be the Tom Holland incarnation? Is it going to be the animated Miles Morales? Is it going to be is it going to be the actual comic book version of him? Or is it going to be a fictional character that nobody cares about? So I'll start with Dan.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Dan, calling from lovely Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Most likely it'll go back to the comic book because they made so many different movie versions that they'll not remember one of them. But the comic book character seems to be, time almost timeless, right? So people seem
You're
to love it. So the comic book
you're
character will be the one remembered.
okay. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Rashawn.
Calling from Atlanta, and if they come out with another video game, I think that might have a big impact on it. Just because the kids will interact in that way.
So it'd be the video game version you think would be the one that would be remembered. All right. Ed?
It's Ed calling from Brooklyn, and I think it'll be Tom Holland remembered because most people have the memory of Nats until the next big Marvel reboot comes along, and or they remake Miles Morales, which is possible too. So I think Tom Holland until the next Marvel reboot.
And Scott?
Hey, it's me, Scott, here in Bergen County, New Jersey. Um, I think that that Miles animated stuff, if they keep making more of that, seemed to be something that was really popular or really kind of revitalized the franchise, so to speak. So that's mine. I think we covered all of them now.
Which is pretty much because the bulk of my childhood, Spider-Man was a comic book character. He was something that was on a page, it was creation of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. They spread around the country. Teenagers gathered at specialty stores and read and talked about him amongst themselves. And then it became this mammoth television console thing. For those stuck, I'm sorry, staring at the mammoth television console that you need two people to move. There was the Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends cartoon from 81 to
Those are the best.
83.
Yeah.
And then forevermore, because it was literally those 2 years, and those lasted until I was watching those in the late 80s and the 90s. It was Firestar who brought a few boys to maturity, similar to Xena a few years later, and Iceman, who became the instant joke. And that, along with Star Wars action figures from Hoth, my generation was off and running. What is a toy or an action figure you had back in the 80s that you don't think would get made today, Scott?
That I don't think would get made today. I think the way I was looking at that question is what isn't being made today that was made when that was popular when we were kids and
Hmm.
there are these Nerf footballs. Just these regular like they were like the I don't know, man. Go jump on eBay and type in Nerf football and put highest price and you'll see some crazy Nerf footballs. And you'll be like, that's a $200 football? Yeah, I guess they don't make the cool Nerf footballs anymore.
The
Um,
ones that weren't the ones that were like that foam kind of plastic, or what kind of
it
Nerf are
was
you
like
talking about?
couple different ones. There was like a spherical one that like had some like grooves in it that wasn't just a regular like spongy ball. And then there are these
Those
like
were easy to
vortex ones.
grip.
There's like a
Yeah.
grip. There's a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But I mean to that point, if I'm just gonna spill into like stuff that I was into, like Mad Balls and that kind of stuff was something I was into as a kid. I don't know if they're making that kind of stuff anymore, if kids are into that.
Sean, any toys that you're looking at like, yeah, this isn't getting made today. Whether it's
Well,
not getting made or, good.
no, well, I was gonna say the Star Wars. Remember there was a big thing about Boba Fett and his missile, because some kids choked on it or something, so they had to recall that. But um, I was gonna say like, and this might be a little bit older than the '80s, but Stretch Armstrong and all of that Stretch family stuff. I don't think those be made today.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't make sense. I'm using this moment about something that doesn't make sense to make a statement about 6'7", that 20th century old people, which are the ones that are running this stupid thing in the ground, might recognize. And I'll say it as best as possible. Why don't you all fade away and don't try to dig what we all say? I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. I'm just talking about my generation. That's from the Who back in the 60s when they were saying to older people, shut up. So I should take that advice. My generation was fed a simple formula. It was kids plus cartoons equal money. It was pretty easy.
Always,
And
man.
memories from random animated time fillers and other shorts from way before. Like, do you remember Tom and Jerry cartoons, Yogi Berra? I I can think of those better than I can think of any specific He-Man or G.I. Joe episode. You know what I mean? Like
I can remember G.I. Joe and He-Man episodes. Hell
you can
yeah.
you can remember the episodes, like what was like the actual
Yo,
plot line.
I tell you straight up my favorite G.I. Joe episode, the one with the weather dominator. To this day, I am convinced some country like China has a weather dominator. And so what
Weather
happened was
Dominator.
like it was a satellite that Cobra had, and it fell apart into three pieces. So the GI Joe team split up to try to get the three pieces, and
Was
they're
this a
playing like
three-part
hockey in like
episode?
Siberia or something. Yo,
Was this a
bro, I'm
three-part
telling you, as
episode?
burnt out as that sounds, I'm telling you, I remember that. Then there was the one with Shipwreck, where Shipwreck got kidnapped by Cobra, and he was in Springfield. We don't know Springfield because everywhere has a Springfield, like the Simpsons, right? But it was Springfield, and it was all Cobra deep cover operation trying to change Shipwreck. I don't know why Shipwreck, because him and his stupid parrot. I hate his parrot. I digress. Sorry, I digress.
That's
But
all
I do
right. So
remember episode.
clearly you can. I was gonna say I feel like it's easier. I easier find it easier to remember like Looney Tunes or Bugs and Daffy episodes. Which basically, if when I say Bugs and Daffy, Dan, what what bit comes to mind, or do you even think of that at all?
I mean, I don't think about it much. My own kids don't really watch those cartoons, so it's too bad that they. I mean, I don't know if they've aged out of it, or or that the cartoons themselves have been completely dated. But the Kill the Rabbit one, with with like with how they do like opera, like that's the one I think of. The GI Joe one I think of, by the way, is that one where the Viper is coming, and it turns out to be like
Yes, the
a guy
Viper.
a guy with a German accent with a window wiper. Like that's like they did a whole episode basically on a bit about a German accent. So that was
I'm truly shocked that you guys truly remember like specific G.I. Joe episodes. It's like, yeah,
that was the
no.
one.
Scott, what do you think of when Looney Tunes
That
is
that shoot him now. Should I shoot him now or shoot him like that? Elmer Fudd, Daffy Duck,
mhm,
Bugs, classic. That's what I think of. But
is
in the cartoon world though, like a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff was really big for me. Be it the Flintstones or the Jetsons or the USA Cartoon Express that would give you like each one of those little bit, the
mm,
Pixie and Dixie and the Top
Kicked
Cat
in.
and all that stuff. Like there was so much stuff. I consumed like thousands of
see,
hours.
and I guess the themes within some of those I feel like have been mimicked, like a lot of the Looney Tunes. I mean, like they've been. It's not the entire concept of the whole show or anything like that, but they've taken those bits and pieces and put them into all this stuff like that. So it was funny, right, Rashawn? I mean, like we watched it and consumed it, even though it was from the 50s and 60s or kind of like when those first were made, but it was still funny, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the whole Bugs and Daffy is duck season, is rabbit season, is duck season, is rabbit season, is rabbit season, is duck season. See, told you. Yeah, like that's timeless.
So, Dan, do you not think your child would find that funny?
They probably would, is the thing, like because that's like slapstick style is usually pretty timeless. Also, like kids still find it funny to see somebody get hit in the head or kick in the nuts or whatever it is. So like that, yeah, they would find that stuff funny. What they what happened since then. So many of the cartoons are like self-aware, and they're very like winking at you, and like there's a lot of like in jokes and like like silliness like that inside of there that I think they weren't doing that in those like Hanna-Barbera cartoons. It was a little more earnest, a little more straightforward, and just trying to be like straight ahead, like slapstick or whatever that was. But there wasn't like the ironic stance of the creators that showed up like it more shows up now.
Well, they also had less time to doing. They were going at 5 and 7 minute chunks as opposed to the 22-minute chunks of what all these shows kind of are now, like the early seasons of The Simpsons, which was 22 minutes, and it feels like watching a Popeye cartoon with the spinach being the factor for a mangled mouth sailor to win the day. Um, it just seems so old compared to what it is looks like now. I am mentioning this book because I inhaled "Stupid TV, Be More Funny" by Alan Siegel about how the golden era of The Simpsons changed TV. Uh, Ed, when I say that, what, how do you view that phrase?
I guess because it's prime time and it's had that longevity and it's been consistently funny. Uh, it was such a part of the culture. Like you remember the t-shirts, you would have Rasta Bart and you would have like football teams having I used to have a Notre Dame like Bart Simpson shirt. My brother had a Syracuse Bart Simpson shirt. Like it just became such a part of the culture at that time. You know, I I think it just changed that you can do animation on primetime television and make a whole lot of bank, not just through TV ratings and advertising, but also through the merch. Because man, even to this day, The Simpsons move a lot of merch.
You,
Um,
you're
and
saying it
so
in the
it's like you've always seen it with cartoons, with kids' cartoons, like obviously G.I. Joe and Mattel with Star Wars, but this was more of a prime time aim at adults. Like the humor was specifically aimed at adults or you know, at
I
least with
don't
it teens, if
I
that
don't
makes
know
sense.
if you're saying it in the past tense. Scott, do you think it kind of almost being undersold as far as, or maybe it's just specific about that golden age, but that what it's kind of birthed onto, which because it's still going. I mean, The Simpsons, we
Yeah.
might, I don't know, I don't know who is watching. I know it is
I don't
still
think
being
anybody here. Or
produced.
do we have anybody here? Like, show of hands. Is anybody watching the show still? Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it's been a couple
No,
seasons. But I would say monthly, I still reference something somehow. I may say I was saying Boo Earns, or I may reference some kind of something, you know?
yeah,
So it's
it's
it's in me, but I think that's a generational thing. And I don't know if anything is going to capture like the public trying to find the right word for it, but like I don't think anything's gonna be that big for that long. Again, I'm saying something like that. I'm sure I'll be proven
well, I mean,
really wrong.
the it is as well, it's possible. I'm going to, before I move forward, which is the focus of Siegel's book, is the first decade of the show, that sort of 90s run of it, from its initial shorts on Tracy Ullman, which a show that I think is completely underrated and does get enough credit,
That
but
show was dope.
yeah,
because I love that show.
completely agree.
Uh
Yo, Tracy
to
Ullman was hilarious.
Ah, the Brits. But to the ugly animated Christmas when Santa's Little Helper is introduced, and then the warp speed from that to where we're suddenly chanting monorail, monorail, monorail. Just, a show of hands, how many know the words to that song? Like full hand. I guess that's just one hand showed.
It's been a
I
while.
know.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah, I
lying.
Well,
I'd
understand.
be lying. It's been a while.
that's all right. I could talk about The Simpsons and its entire thought process on its own. I might delve into, but is there one phrase or line Rashawn, that you when you think about The Simpsons, like you said, Boo Earns, is there anything like that that just kind of comes to mind right away?
Um, no, not really one line. The Who Shot Mr. Burns saga was probably like that piqued my interest more than anything I think during that time frame. But I don't have a line or anything
No,
besides
just in
Dole.
general. Okay. All right.
Or
Ed,
donuts.
anything, Ed? You still got any of the shirts?
I think I might have a Syracuse shirt somewhere.
A
Like dead
Syracuse
ass.
Simpsons shirt?
Yeah.
So sorry
Syracuse
for you.
Brandon's, yeah. But this was like where, yeah. When Syracuse had a good like football team too.
Uh,
It wasn't even
oh,
hoops.
Was that Donovan
Yeah.
McNabb?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Back
go.
in those days.
Yeah.
That's aging myself, but yeah. I have a line. I'll probably get fired for it, but like the Simpsons episode about St. Patrick's Day where what is it? Brock the newscaster goes, "Today's St. Patrick's Day where everyone is Irish except the Italians and the gays." That line always got to me, especially what was happening in New York with like not letting Italians and gays participate. And yeah, that line I always found hilarious. I think that's also the episode Bart got drunk. I think the other thing I liked about The Simpsons I remember is the Ramones. Like they had the Ramones, they had Cypress Hill, they had Smashing
they've
Pumpkins,
had so many different people.
they've had Kid
So
Rock. Like they've had so many spectrum of like they had the Smashing Pumpkins with Darcy. Like we're talking the original iteration, right? Like take it back right there. But I'm just saying. So those are the two things. But I remember that's my line with The Simpsons that I remember. And of course, I caramba on everything that
Mhm.
was just annoying. Do the line. That's the other one. Do the line. Do the line. I do say that to people. It's like, yeah, do the line. Do the line.
Dan, is it unfortunate, or I don't even know what to describe it, that the only equivalent I could think of would be South Park for this, with in terms of being able to kind of push the culture as to more than just being a show that's on television and funny. You know what I mean? Is that is that equivalent, or am I speaking too much? Or am I giving it too much credit?
Well, it's probably a little too much credit for South Park, but the biggest difference, right, is that when the Simpsons were peaking in that like early '90s, mid '90s, the internet hadn't proliferated yet. So like the idea of there being something, I heard the phrase like monoculture, right? Like where like everyone is watching the same stuff because there was only so
Mhm.
much stuff to watch. That's been pretty much gone, and so like they're really out. It has to be something really dramatically unique to like actually capture the attention of everybody. I mean, I work in media. The only thing that, if you talk about like things that everybody's watching that you can consistently buy ads on, it's pretty much live sports is what's
That's
left.
Live
I
sports and
find
like
that,
the Oscars, and that's about it.
Yeah, right.
but
Like a award show, like things that are
Yeah.
happening live that
It
aren't.
has to be consumed in real time.
Right.
It can't be like sport. It can't be DVR. It can't be binge. Like, and,
Yeah.
and right now, that's only sports
but
and award shows.
even as you say that, so something like I don't watch it, but I know of the Yellowstone and hear about people and everybody watching that. Is that just a specific market genre that is watching that? Because that's supposedly what everybody was watching, the same way everybody was watching Breaking Bad, or everybody was watching The Sopranos, or everybody was watching Enter this show or this entity thing here. I mean, when it gets around to it, everybody's going to be watching the NBA playoffs if LeBron or Steph Curry is in. I mean, like that kind of
But
is
it's
specific
different.
needed, but
But it's
It,
different.
it
It's different because there's people binge watching now. The Wire, watching it for the first time. Wire is that's one of my favorite shows of all. It is my favorite show of all time, and it's still it's being taught in like universities now. You know what I mean? Like, um, everything, like I said, advertising wise, as far as like the business sides of broadcast, my man was correct over here. Like he knows better than I would. It's you're not there's no water cooler moment other than sports. I think game seven's a good example of that, right? Just last night. Tomorrow we're gonna go to work and like, hey, everyone's gonna talk about what they were doing during the game. Oh, I did trick or treating and da 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 da, and then oh, did you see the game? And everyone's gonna have a comment in the game, and that doesn't happen anymore with scripted or animated stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I see what you're saying about the perception. Oh, everybody's watching Yellowstone. Yeah, I watched a little bit of it, but like, it's
Yeah,
okay. Like,
it's not the same everybody anymore. Like there like
yeah,
certain shows can pop and like get more attention outside of small niches, but it's still they're still niches, right? Like there's still like I always wonder like if you see like the commercials for the shows on CBS when you're watching football or something like that, and you're saying
Mhm.
who watches these shows? Clearly people do because they make them and
I, th
it's
and
but
that's
like
my point.
it's
That's my
not like
point.
everybody's watching the one show. Like you have your
like
pockets, you have your niches,
if
and you
you
could be good inside of those niches, but it'll be rare to like capture. I mean, like the Simpsons thing was funny too because you had that like Ed brought it up when it first popped, and it was like Bart saying "I caramba" on everything, and don't have a cow, and like it's merch everywhere. But like what they did with the show after that, like what was all these smart nerdy people made all like three-quarters of the jokes on The Simpsons were not like Homer gets hit in the head with a football. They were like so I didn't get to do my favorite Simpsons line, but the one I always remember, it's the episode where Bart sells his soul. And they do these throwaway things all the time. So he says like, Lisa's telling him, "Oh, I think Pablo Neruda said that laughter is the language of the soul." And Bart says, "I'm familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda," which is like
the
that chokes me
absurd.
every time. But like,
Eat the fries, eat them. That's my favorite line from that episode. Sorry.
yes, but you know what I mean? Like that they did 10 seasons of stuff like that where they're making like nerd culture references and art and all kinds of literature and cinema, and like there's all kinds of stuff going on that they were able to get away with inside of a show that like looked like it was going to be one of those like dumb culture things going on. So
I
that there's another thing in there too, by the way, which is that a difference between now and then. Back then, like you asked about Spider-Man, right? There was a stretch when we were like when we were kids, like it wasn't cool to be a nerd back then. You know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
I actually was reading something about the movie Mallrats and how like that movie wasn't successful when it came out and then became more of a cult hit over time. And one of the reasons is like back then, people talking regularly about knowing who Stan Lee was. It was not that was not particularly mainstream. And then now it is like because of the giganticness of the Marvel movies and
Helps.
a bunch of other factors, right? But there's like the
It's kind of like the
mainstreaming of
nerds won in the
nerdness.
end.
I mean, they kind of did. I mean, like because now that culture is mainstream. It's not as
Hmm
it's harder to like
I
dive into
I'm
that
sorry. Go
niche.
ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I remember going to Comic Con when it was just like one ballroom and getting to see like the writers and New York Comic Con. Like it, growing up in New York is one of those like cool things you got to do. Like I convinced my immigrant dad who don't speak a lick of English to take me and my brother to Comic Con, right? And we bought our graphic novels. It was the first time we bought like graphic novels. It was a big deal to us, right? And now I can't even imagine getting tickets. I don't. Can I afford? I mean, I can't. I go to wrestling events. Like speaking of geek things that are like now more acceptable, where it's like factions of wrestling fans, tribalism occurring. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's so niche now.
what once was a subculture has now become a culture onto its own. And I'll use that phrasing to step in. And as I say, with The Simpsons, just as a thought process, it's an entire podcast series truly on its own. But I'm going to end here with a trivia question. As I did start talking about The Simpsons, and remember, we play with Price is Right rules. The early animation, it was obviously all from talk about the Flintstones. It was all to talk about the Flintstones. The first animated series with a prime time slot. It was a Stone Age that resembled mid 20th century suburbia, which now looks like it was before the Great Depression to a child born after 9/11, which is a whole bunch of phrasing to get to the point that the Flintstones only received one nomination at the 13th Primetime Emmy Awards in 1961, a milestone at the time, despite then losing to the Jack Benny Show for outstanding program in the field of humor. So that's what was up. It was up against the Flintstones was up against Jack Benny and
Jack
lost.
Benny had bars though.
I was gonna say that's why it was that was up there at all. But the number I'm looking for is according to Wikipedia, how many episodes did William Hanna and Joseph Barbera release of the Flintstones? And Scott, since I hadn't heard from you in a while, I'll start with you.
Um, it's probably it's under 100, I think. I think it's like I want to say it's 74.
74. Ed?
Please take my wife. That was Jack Benny, right? Pretty sure it was.
No,
Sorry, never mind.
no, that's
Uh,
fine.
I think that's Henny Youngman.
I was gonna say I
I was
thought that
Eddie
was Henny
Youngman. Yeah,
Youngman.
I knew
That
it was
was
one of
Henny
them old school
Youngman.
cats. Sorry. How
Okay.
many episodes?
How many episodes?
Oof. I'm gonna go with 52.
Dan? 74 from Scott, 52 from Ed.
Yeah, the number I had in my head was 85. So I'll go with 85. Why not?
85. So Rashawn, 85 is the high. 74, 52 would be the low. What you got?
You said original by Hanna and Barbera, right?
Well, this is what how it's basically how many episodes the Flintstones drop.
Oh,
It was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, so they're the
gotcha.
ones who are catching residuals. Well, I don't even know if they catch residuals because I don't know if that show's even on anymore, but
I'm gonna go with 36.
36. All right. Thanks for listening to Gate to Gate. My guests have flights to catch, and I'll be back soon enough with something better to put down. The answer to the trivia question will be in the description for this episode. So until then, take it easy down your life's highway and have a good evening.